We're now less than 70 days away from the inauguration of President-elect Donald Trump, which will bring new policies to the nation. Among the many proposals that could impact Hawaii are tariffs. Joining us now to tell us more is University of Hawaii Economic Research Organization Executive Director Carl Bonham. Aloha and good morning, Carl. Thank you so much for stopping by with us.
Good morning. Aloha.
So first, we can start on a basic level. What are tariffs?
Yeah, so a tariff is a tax that is legally imposed on a company that's importing goods that are made outside of the country. And so that's who legally pays the tax, but you don't necessarily know who ultimately ends up paying, right? Because that company could pass along the full burden of that tax onto consumers or onto other businesses that it's selling to. The foreign company that makes the good could lower its price or could hold its price constant. And so what economists call the incidence of the tax, who ultimately bears it, is really an empirical question.
Yeah, and we're looking at the proposal right now, and these numbers could change, 20% on foreign goods and then up to 60% from goods from China. How do you feel like that will impact the national economy if those numbers are true?
Well, I would suggest that's not the most likely outcome. I will be surprised if we see a 20% across the board tariff. So that would be an enormous increase in tariffs. I'm pretty sure that so at the end of the last Trump administration, I think the U.S. economy ended up with an effective tariff rate on all goods of less than 3%. And so going from 3% to 20% would be enormous. And would raise costs for pretty much every household in the country. Estimates range from $1,000 a household to $2,000 a household, depending on what the tariffs are. And those tend to be highly regressive. It tends to fall on the lowest income households. So as I said, I don't expect we'll actually see a 20% tariff. It also has a negative impact on the overall economy. It tends to create some inflation. It would tend to slow economic activity. And so, if we end up with a 10% tariff across the board, then we're talking about a modest increase in inflation and a modest slowdown in economic activity just from the tariff impacts.
Some of the argument for tariffs are for American industries to increase production here. Do you estimate that would have an impact on our American industries?
Oh, it definitely will have an impact. It's not clear that the aggregate impact would be anything other than negative. The one thing you have to remember is that businesses that are exporting goods actually get hurt by higher tariffs. It tends to raise the value of the dollar, and it tends to make U.S. exports less competitive. Most economists. So look, there's almost no agreement amongst economists on the impacts of tariffs, and the tariffs during the Trump administration were studied very, very heavily, and the general conclusion is that almost all of those tariffs, the effects were completely passed through onto U.S. consumers and businesses, raising their costs. And the general consensus would be that if you're trying to boost, say, U.S. manufacturing or segments of the U.S. economy, tariffs they're a very blunt tool, and they hurt other businesses as well. So it's not exactly a good approach to improving some segments of the U.S. economy.
When you look at economically speaking, some of his other policies include mass deportation, possibly, of millions of migrant workers in the United States, as well as tax cuts that would be for corporations as well as high income earners. How do you think those would impact the economy?
So, the devil is in the details. When do these things happen, and how extensive are they? Right. So the one thing that seems very, very clear as the Republicans look very likely to control the House is that the Trump administration is going to or the Republicans will have control of both the House and the Senate. So the Trump tax cuts that were set to expire at the end of 2025 there's almost zero chance that those won't get extended. Then the question is, how much do you get in additional tax cuts? Are we going to see tax cuts on tip earners? Are we going to see taxes on Social Security waived? And all those things are very, very fluid because they all raise deficits and debt. And House Republicans that are fiscal conservatives are likely to not go along with all of those tax cuts. Any way you cut it, no pun intended, any way you look at this, cutting those taxes and some increase in government spending that raises deficits will expand the economy in the very near term. It will also create upward pressure on inflation and will also tend to lead the Federal Reserve to slow down its interest rate cuts. And adding in deportations has the same effect on inflation. It tightens the labor market, it raises wages, and also tends to keep interest rates higher for longer. So the combination of higher inflation, higher interest rates is a net negative for most households in Hawaii, even those who might benefit, say, from a reduction in their taxes on tips or something of that nature.
All right, Carl Bonham, Executive Director with the University of Hawaii Economic Research Organization. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us this morning.
Mahalo.